To follow up now on a story we first reported on ILTV a few weeks ago, where a student group at the University of Michigan marched through campus praising violent attacks against Israel. The group was protesting Vice President Kamala Harris, who was visiting campus to discuss the Biden administration's climate policy. We're here with Arsen Ostrovsky, CEO of the International Legal Forum, to give us the latest on that. Arsen, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you.
Can you firstly recap this incident for us?
Sure. Look, a few weeks ago, mid-January, Vice President Kamala Harris was meant to be speaking at the University of Michigan, and a number of student groups, led by one group called SAFE, quite ironically, held a big rally, big protest, and during that there were some really jarring, obscene calls for an intifada. Now, there is no mistaking what intifada means. That is a direct call for violence. We expected that the university leadership ought to have shown leadership and taken appropriate action and condemned it. Regrettably, they refused to do so.
How have they refused? What does that look like? What's the process look like?
Well, we've engaged a process of dialogue with the university, and essentially boils down to this, that the university leadership is saying that this is a matter of free speech, whereas what we're saying, well, no, hold on, this is not. This crosses all red lines. A call for intifada is an unmistakable call for violence. And a university, such as University of Michigan leadership, which purports and claims to respect values of inclusivity and combating hate speech and anti-Semitism, instead is being silent. And you really have to ask yourself what kind of message this sends to the Jewish community on campus.
Is there any kind of legal action that you can take against the university on this matter?
Sure, there is, and we're exploring a number of avenues. I think the primary one to consider here is that we have to bear in mind that the University of Michigan is a public institution, and therefore, because they are a public institution, they are liable under what is called a Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits universities from discriminating, but also from creating atmospheres where student groups are being harassed and intimidated, which is what we're seeing here on campus right now.
That same group, they're called SAFE, you said, which stands for Students Allied for Freedom and Equality. They issued an open letter last month calling on that university on the board of Michigan to divest from Israeli-owned companies. Have we seen any fallout on that issue?
On that issue, no, we haven't, but two things we are seeing now with the same group as well. In a matter of a week, they will be hosting at the University of Michigan Mohammed Al-Kurd, who is a really notorious anti-Semite, someone who has openly glorified terrorism.
Is he the Sheikh Jarrah resident?
Yes, he is, and then a few days after that, they're holding an event to honour Palestinian martyrs.
I don't know if he's known as such a person. I know he's an activist for his neighbourhood, but I'm not sure we can class him in the way that you've so described. I think he has a right to we have to draw some kind of line between rightful protest and incitement against Jewish people.
Well, I mean, this is someone who has quite openly peddled in anti-Jewish tropes, who's glorified terrorist attacks. The ADL has an entire page on Mohammed Al-Kurd as well. In addition to him as well, a few days after that, there will be an event honouring Palestinian martyrs. And this comes barely a week after the Jerusalem massacre, in which 7 worshippers were massacred outside a synagogue. So you really have to ask here, where is the university leadership and what kind of message this sends to the Jewish community on campus?
And are the Jewish community on campus doing anything in protest of Mohammed Al-Kurd's visit?
They are the Jewish students, even faculty and staff, that are speaking out, that are calling on the university to issue some kind of statement, some kind of public action. But thus far, unfortunately, the university is nowhere to be seen on this.
So what do you think can be done to, on the one hand, protect students' rights to protest and to speak out, like Mohammed Al-Kurd, for his neighbourhood of Sheikh Jarrah, and on the other hand, draw a line against inciting and calling for violence against Jews, which is, of course, absolutely outrageous. How can you make that distinction, and what can you do to keep that balance?
Look, any right, even in the United States, such as the right to free speech, is not absolute. There are limitations, including when there are direct calls for violence. But even if the university says that there is a legitimate right to such speech, which they may make their case, there's still nothing stopping the university from showing leadership and issuing a public statement saying, well, you know what, they might have the right to say that possibly, but we do not agree to it, we condemn this kind of speech, and we will stand with the Jewish community on campus.
Arsen Ostrovsky, thank you very much for this. We'll be back with you on Insider to pick up this debate.
Thank you.